up guys, welcome back to another video. It's Aleksi here. So in this video I'd like to talk about God and like trusting God, even when you want clarity but you don't have clarity. But thing is, clarity is not important, trust in God is. And when you don't see what God is doing, and one-on-ones in the description, donation is scripted if you'd like to help run this channel. Thank you, helps very much. But God, when he does this in your life, you see sometimes God do something in your life. You receive maybe a small blessing or maybe something, enlightenment, etc. And sometimes you just walk through these trials and different circumstances, or you're wondering what to do next. Sometimes what you just need to do is sometimes just wait and rest. Sometimes you need to work, whatever it is. And the most important thing for you to understand is just trusting God without seeing the unseen. That's also what having faith is trusting the unseen, Trusting the unseen is so important, because we'll never really have true clarity over what God's doing, because nobody can see what God's doing, That's unfathomable to us, because it's the unseen, We can never see it and have true clarity. We don't see what God is doing in the background when we're like healing our wounds and going over, past traumas and forgiving people, and, we don't see all the unhealing, we don't see all the healing stuff, and we don't see what the Holy Spirit is doing in our body, for example. We don't see all these unseen things. We don't see what the angels do in our lives, in a sense. We might see some of it in action, in terms of like what we happens to orchestrate around us, what God orchestrates around us. We might see through that what God and the angels are doing, and what, sometimes you can feel it in your body and, in your life when changes come through God, when the Holy Spirit is doing work. And this is like sometimes what you can see, but you won't have clarity over everything God does, and where God is pulling strings where you don't even see, with God's plan. You don't see these things. I don't see these things, right? We don't know what our like fate or destiny or whatever, or everything that happens in our life in advance like God does, and what God is dynamically as well doing in your life. And we don't see these things, right? We also have free will, and every choice has a consequence, and it's important to just trust in God and follow and be obedient to God and submit to it and surrender and let go of control and the wheel, and let God have the wheel, because he has what is best for you. And you just have to trust when God is trying to tell you to do something, then you do it, and you don't hesitate on it. And also just when it's waiting and trusting God, that is also an action, is waiting, rest and trust. And just doing that, instead of trying to maybe force an outcome in your work or relationships or whatever, if God is guiding you to take an action, you take an action. If God is trying to guide you to not take action, then don't take action. Or if he's guiding you to have balance in action you take and then rest, then you do that. It's like, do these things to the best of your ability. Obviously we're not perfect, and God knows we're not perfect, and we will never be perfect. We can be perfected to an extent, like between like probably 30 to 80%, like in terms of the truth, but we'll still never understand all truths in this life, but only in the next. And that's why it's important for you to trust, because we are not perfect and God is perfect, and he can do things perfectly in our lives if we just allow him to and not force control over everything. And that's basically what I wanted to say in this video, is don't force things and just surrender to the universe in a sense and what it's doing for you. Thank you for watching. It does all this away. See you in the next video.